Timberwolves president of basketball operations, David Kahn. Who is he?
Tell us exactly about this European Blake Griffin.
I don't know. I think Blake Griffin is American numbers.
The Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant.
The Milwaukee Bucks select Dirk Nowitzki from Würzburg, Germany.
I'm Ricky Rubio. I'm not like anybody else, but
It ain't the end of the world. We're going to see each other again. I mean, I'll send her some flowers or some fruit.
All right, and on the line now we have Lucas Shapiro. You've probably seen him featured in either Dime Magazine or on dimemag.com as one of their contributors, one of the better writers when it comes to young basketball, college basketball, high school basketball on the internet now, and definitely an up-and-comer in the game of basketball. How's everything going today, Lucas?
Oh, everything is going well, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing great today. This is kind of an impromptu thing, right? I just gave you a call and said, let's just go ahead and jump on here and talk hoops.
Yeah, but hey, I'm always ready to talk hoops, anytime, anywhere.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, I mean, that's how I see you as so far as, I mean, it's all hoops all the time, from the stuff you do at Dime to the stuff you do on lucasshapiro.wordpress.com, your YouTube videos, your tweets. It's constant basketball. What got you into the basketball game?
I mean, just as a young kid, I was always watching my dad play some pickup basketball, and, I always just loved it. And, I've become more fond of watching it now, but I'm still playing for my high school team, and, I can't get enough of it. I never get tired of it.
Yeah, it's hard to get tired of basketball. It's just such a great game with so many different things you can watch. I mean, right now we're limited to what we can watch on basketball, so it's more or less with recruiting and with scouting and getting yourself prepared more for the college game. You do a lot of that in the local area of the New England, right? You looking at the high school prospects?
Yeah, I do a lot of various things in the New England area for scouting high school prospects. I go around. I work for a website called the New England Recruiting Report.com, where I cover either tournaments, showcases. I see players, evaluate them, and there's a lot of talent out here in New England nowadays. Whether it's guys like Mitch McGarry at Brewster Academy or Nerlens Noel at Tilton, there's just a ton of talent out here. And, some guys that are, want to play college basketball next year, too.
Yeah, it looks like that. I mean, the New England area, not that it wasn't already talented before, but it's definitely producing at an extremely high level lately. And you know what? Speaking of freshmen, speaking of prospecting, let's just jump right into it with the college season. I mean, what we do here at NBADraftInsider.com is obviously cover the NBA draft, and what you do for the most part is you're looking at these high school guys. You see them before they hit the college hardwood. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the freshmen, and where else. There's no better place to start than the University of Kentucky, Freshman Inc. So talk about, I guess we can go in with the big name with Anthony Davis. Talk about Anthony Davis over there with University of Kentucky a little bit.
Well, Anthony Davis, he's one of those guys that, the first time you see him in person, you just are taken aback because he's such a freak of nature. He's about 6'11", and he literally moves like a guard and has the skills of a guard. And it's going to be interesting to see him play in the big man slot for Kentucky this season. I heard that he had put on 20 pounds, but I'm not sure how he's going to deal as a power forward. I think of him more as like a small forward. He's a little bit of a combo forward, and he's very, very skinny. I stood next to him, and he was probably one of the skinniest basketball players I've ever seen. But, I didn't think that was a problem for him. He's highly skilled. He still has a lot of room for improvement, which is definitely a good thing for his NBA draft perspectives. But I think he's going to produce pretty well at Kentucky this year, despite the fact that I think he might be playing out of position.
Yeah, he'll be playing out of position only because he grew 9-10 inches or so in a year and a half span. I mean, went from unknown point guard, as everyone describes him, to number one overall recruit and potential number one NBA draft pick. You're out there in the New England area. He's more from the Illinois, Chicago area. How much have you seen of his game?
I had seen him a few times on television, and because the Hoop Hall Classic comes out to New England every January, I got to see him play against one of the best teams in Massachusetts. So they weren't a very big team. They had one kid who's going to Notre Dame next year named Pat Connaughton, but I saw this kid. He went for about, I'd say, 36 points, 20 rebounds and like 6 or 7 blocks, and it was unbelievable.
Now, the biggest knocks on his game, and I have it up there on NBADraftInsider.com with Anthony Davis's profile. You can just go right into the big board. He's right around the top. His biggest issues, we mentioned the strength, and the strength is going to affect his finishing and his post game. Getting down there in the paint. He's going to be playing in the SEC, so he's got Patrick Young, Festus Ezeli, the big boys over with Mississippi State. They got a stable of big ones over there. How is he going to handle full-time college basketball, getting banged around by these guys that are used to living in the paint? How do you think that transition is going to look?
I think it's going to be very difficult for him. There's no getting around the fact that he's already skinny. He's not going to get that much more bigger before the season, so I think he is going to get knocked around a little bit. Offensively, I'm not too worried about him because I think he has a pretty good feel for the game. But defensively, I think that he's going to get bullied in the post a lot. He has some good shot blocking instincts. I'm just not too crazy about the idea of him being their main big man defender. I guess maybe if you put him down with another guy who's like 6'10" and pretty well built, I think he'd be all right. But if he's going to be their main defensive presence, I'm a little worried for them.
Yeah, I like his shot blocking ability mainly because of the 7'4" wingspan. So that really helps him out a lot, and his athleticism was already there from being a guard. So he's got the instincts, but when you're back down and you're underneath the basket, it's going to be hard to utilize a 7'4" wingspan when you're coming in at 220, getting banged around by other competition for him at the power forward, guys like Jared Sullinger. I mean, those kind of guys are going to definitely have their way with him if they're just backing him down. So offensively, I agree with you completely. I mean, he's got a pretty good package. He can handle the ball on the perimeter. He's got a pretty good jump shot, and he's got a feel for the game where if you stick him out on the perimeter and have a guy like Jared Sullinger guarding him, it's 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. He's going to be great on offense on most nights. Defensively, it's going to be hit or miss because if guys are not going right at him, he's going to be able to be a good defender. It's just about other guys going to go right at him. Now, a guy who's going to clean up a lot of the defensive issues for Anthony Davis, I think, and someone who probably should be talked about more than Anthony Davis on this team coming in, Mike Gilchrist. He's the small forward, got a great body so far for the NBA. I think he could step right in and play the wing position pretty quickly, and defensively, he's there. He's going to guard people immediately from day one and lock them down. What are your thoughts on Mike Gilchrist?
Well, if Mike Gilchrist weren't going anywhere other than Kentucky, he would be the man at that school. But, they got guys like Terrence Jones and, we were just talking about Anthony Davis and even Deron Lamb. So I think he's going to, kind of take more of a role player role. But the thing I like about Michael Gilchrist is that he's the type of player that I don't think he'd have a problem with that. When I saw him play against Shabazz Muhammad, the Hoop Hall Classic last year, I mean, he was just dominating in every way you could think of. He's just one of those players you can't really name one specific skill that he has, but he's got an NBA body, and he has just a great versatile skill set, and he's a leader. You can just tell by the way he treats his teammates. He's going to be a great college basketball player. I'm not sure what he really projects to be in the NBA because guys in the NBA also have those intangibles, but I'm not sure how high his ceiling is, but I really like him as a college basketball player this upcoming year for Kentucky.
Yeah, I like his attitude. I like his energy he plays with. It's a different setting playing in the Hoop Summit, but when he was out in Portland playing in the Nike Hoop Summit, you stuck him on the ball in the full court press, and he just absolutely destroyed some of the young world's point guards. I mean, those guys couldn't even bring the ball up court on him. They had to throw it from three-quarters court into a turnover. So he definitely makes the guys behind him look better defensively. So I just think overall his package is going to be defense, playing smart, and playing with energy. If he does that, I think he's a guy who could maybe not statistically just wow everybody. Like you said, he's not going to be the guy. Terrence Jones is going to steal a lot of those possessions. Marcus Teague that we'll talk about, Anthony Davis. He's not going to get all the touches, but I think he's a guy with the intangibles that is going to make or break this team being a Final Four team. If he plays his game and they just let him play his game, this team could win it all. If he gets kind of pushed into the shadows, I don't know how good this team can be, but he's got all the intangibles of a really, really good prospect going forward, like you said, with that NBA body. Lastly, on Kentucky that we'll talk about here is incoming freshman Marcus Teague. He's not the last of the group. They got more talent on this team, but what do you think of Marcus Teague? And I'll pose the question this way. Brandon Knight, John Wall, Marcus Teague? Not necessarily how would you rank them, but who is Marcus Teague to you when you start thinking of it from that perspective?